Welcome to the Inquisitive Analyst. We are live here today, and I have a very intriguing, very interesting guest. I've actually been on his YouTube show, and he runs a YouTube show called BA Insights, where he interviews leaders, practitioners, and experts from the world of business analysis. I might add that he's got this plethora of guests from the BA world, and he's currently a managing principal consultant and has been working as a business analyst for the past 2 decades, mostly in the financial and banking industry. So please help me welcome to today's show, all the way from the UK, John Wisner. Hello, John.
Hey, Marcus, everyone. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the great introduction.
Thank you. And I hope that I pronounced your surname properly. Is it Wisner or Wisner?
Wisner, yeah, you got it perfect there, Marcus. Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, I just want to tell our audience before we go on with the show, just to please remember to like, subscribe, and comment below. We certainly will like to hear from you during the show. This is a live show, so you can throw in some questions if you want to. Feel free to do that. In the meantime, let's talk about BA best practices, which is today's theme. So, John, let me start out by asking you, what are the key components of BA best practices that really need to be standardized across an organization?
Okay, so I think there's I'm almost certainly not going to cover absolutely everything, but I think the key things for me would be number one, a service model, as we call it, which is really just recognizing the different services or activities or functions that we perform as a business analysis capability. So that service model is particularly key. I would say the other thing that we tend to deliver as well is think about training. So internally within the organization, how can we help our organization, help the workforce develop their business analysis skills? And that may be in partnership with institutions and organizations like the IOEA, or it may be through internal or both. I think another key thing is always thinking about artifacts as well, and templates would be a good example of that. And I think another probably key thing for me as well is also career opportunities and helping each individual within the capability help them progress through their career. So we think about things at Capco as a career pathway, helping people that join at the first level work their way up. So in this case, perhaps be a senior or lead BA and then become a BA manager and then beyond. But then also to sort of almost complement that those career pathways and those opportunities is to give individuals the support so that actually they do have someone to go to, whether that's a mentor or a coach or just someone who can just give them some advice on things that they can develop as well. So just I'm sure there's a load more, but definitely for me, service catalogue, which is effectively your process, your training, and focusing on careers seem to be the 3 big focus areas for me, I would say.
I'm really big into mentoring myself, and when I look back to my career over the last couple of decades, it would have been splendid for the organization to say, hey, we have a BA best practice, and one of those components happens to be mentoring. Would you like to join? Or just say, listen, it's open for everyone for the next 6 weeks or 1 month. That would be fantastic. So we've got a number of these key components. How can we identify, how can we document those BA practices in an organization?
So I think it depends, I guess, on the size of the organization, the technical capabilities they have and the tools that are available. So I think in a very small organization where there's relatively few BAs, I think it's probably more important to just find a medium that works for those individuals, and that medium will change depending on if they're all part of the same office and they come into the office regularly. There'll be quite different needs there than a team that's globally diverse or a team that is doing some form of hybrid or remote working as well. So I think they're all considerations that can come into the mix. Myself and within Capco, we're working with a globally distributed team. We've got although I look after the UK BA and process capability, there are no barriers to being part of the BA community. So we have people join from all over the world, and they've joined sessions as well, and they're able to do so because in our case, we have a global team site that allows people to interact irrespective of where they're from, and to share good practice, and to ask questions, and to know who are the key people that they can go to. But then also, how can they access those things that I was just talking about? So how can they access a page on the service catalogue and know a little bit more? How can they access the page on training, as an example? So I think very much depends, but I think having identified the key things that anyone wants to deliver for their service and their capability or their practice, just trying to find the right way to make it accessible for everybody in the organisation, irrespective of wherever they are.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting point you bring up, because you end up working for a company. For example, I've worked for oil companies here in the city. I've worked for some financial institutions, and sometimes they have this intranet, this internal website only accessible to employees. And a lot of those types of announcements on BA best practices, for example, could be on that intranet. And when you log onto your machine in the morning, guess what? Your front page on your web browser happens to be for that company's intranet. And now you can go through it and get these announcements, these regular announcements on BA practices. So I certainly think that's key. Now, what are some of these challenges in implementing BA practices in an organization?
So I think I won't repeat everything I just said on the last one, you'd be pleased to know, but I think our key challenge is actually finding that right tool that works. And I think aside from all those other aspects that I just mentioned about a moment ago in terms of how distributed the team are, I think another key consideration when we're thinking about tooling is actually what other practices or what other capabilities exist already within the organisation. So as a good example, right, we will have a developer capability sometimes, or a testing capability, or a project management capability, or community. And actually, if they're all three of those examples, they're all using a particular platform or technology to communicate within their own communities, it will make sense for the BAs to probably adopt that same technology. It also perhaps gives an opportunity in that case to interact a bit more with those other communities and with the wider organisation, because we don't want to create a little island of BAs. We want to make sure that the BAs can still be part of their organisation, still connect with all those other communities, learn from all those other experts, and interact as they need to as well. So I think that is one challenge. I think the tooling. I think another probably a large one is actually just around engagement. So it's it's just trying to make sure that every BA or anyone interested in business analysis has that opportunity to be engaged. And the reason I put it like that is because in a bigger organisation, there's plenty of reasons why any individual won't necessarily be actively engaged with the BA community, because maybe for a time they choose to be part of a different community, and that's fine. But everybody probably needs the opportunity to engage, and they probably need lots of reminders to let them know that actually there's a community there that they can engage with, and there's a practice there that can support them. So I think just reaching people and giving them that awareness is a big challenge, and especially at our organisation, as I said, we work with different clients, so we quite often have groups of teams that are focused very much on their client deliverables and their client teams. So it's maybe it's more appropriate in those situations for us to, rather than wait for them to come to the central group, is to go out to those different teams and work with specific client teams and give them awareness and hear what their challenges are that is maybe specific to that particular account that they're working on. So maybe just I guess in order to flip this around a little bit in terms of from challenges to how to overcome them, I think very much it's just about trying to find every opportunity and every channel that you can to help people that are part of your community or could be part of your community in practice to help them engage or help them be aware or help them know that you're around and you exist, really.
I think this has really helped to answer the next question I was going to ask you, which is how do you adequately train your employees on BA best practices? And the big thing is giving them the opportunity and making sure that, or at least giving them the opportunity to be part of this group that's going to be trained on it, having that information easily accessible to them, like I mentioned, on the internet. What if, is this a volunteer move? In other words, if I don't want to be part of a BA practice, if I don't want the training, is it strictly volunteer, or is it a compulsory thing? As soon as you get an employee that's hired as a BA, these are our best practices, and you need to go into training. Would that be adequate?
So I think, and certainly is the case at Capco. So what I'm about to say is definitely aligned to the way we do things, and that is everybody who joins, probably below partner level, I would say, they have, as part of their rigorous induction, they have various sessions to give them awareness of the different practices or capabilities, domains or expertise or groups that are in existence. So one of those will be the business analysis and process group. And for that particular group, during everybody's induction, we hold a introduction to business analysis training session. So it's 3 hours, so it's not too intensive, but it's a good opportunity to just tell everybody, the way we do analysis at Capco in this case, to talk about some of the key concepts around, processes, the standards in which we use to deliver, how they can access further training and what that is, give them awareness as well about the community. So I think in that case, because at least that first training module is part of an induction process, I think it works quite well, and it's a good way of making sure that nobody slips through the net, as it were. But I think beyond that, there's always ways to sort of reinforce the value of training and reinforce that training doesn't have to be something you just do once and that you can revisit. And I think a way we try to do that is to try and make it relevant and try and make it connected to some of the things I've already mentioned. So as an example, when we give training around business analysis, it will reflect all the things that we talk about in our service catalogue. It will reflect the techniques that we present in our team site, as an example. So that's definitely helping in reinforce some of those things that we try and share, and reinforce that there is a community that people can access. Something else we're doing at the moment as well, which is hopefully a way to further extend the opportunity for people to attend training, because other than that induction course that I mentioned and that introduction to BA, it's not compulsory for people to attend a BA 101, as it were. But what we're thinking of doing is actually, and we're working on now, is to try and take the training that exists at the moment, which is 3-hour modules, and look at the content within them. So, for example, if you had a particular need to just get a bite-sized bit of training on sequence diagrams, as an example, where could you get that from? So that may be something we might do a very small video on. We might leverage some YouTube material. We might leverage some Udemy or equivalent training, catalogs. We might leverage IBA as another example. Or indeed, we might just host some training. I mean, that's always an option as well. So in many cases, face-to-face training is the right thing to do. So a bit of a long-winded answer, I think, there, Marcus, but I think it's about sort of having that breadth of training and connecting it to everything that you do, so that people have that opportunity and that awareness, and they're encouraged to do the training.
Now, I really like this idea of this iterative learning. It's not just once and you're done. It's not like I just got my certificate, I don't have to look at the BABUC again. And I really like this idea of videos, especially an interactive module of some sort to make this more engaging for the audience. Now,
we had a session a long while ago when I was pulling together the BA training modules within Capco, And actually, it was made clear to me from someone a real expert in delivering training that quite often when people attend training, their capacity to take in different techniques and approaches is somewhat limited. So it's, I think on average, it's could be between 3 and 5 techniques that are completely new to someone that they might take on. So with that in mind, if you've got training where you might present 10 techniques, that's fine, because not everybody, the same 3 or 4 are not going to resonate with everyone that attends.
True.
But it's about making it understood to people, letting people understand that it's okay to attend a session where we're going to tell you about 10 different things. And if you walk away with 3 or 4 things that you're going to go away and practice and learn a bit more about, that's fine. And then come back again when you've mastered those 3 or 4 techniques, sit through the session again and learn another 3 or 4 techniques. So that's the way we tend to do it, because it's just about being realistic that people learn slightly differently. We all have a capacity, and there'll be things that will be more or less interesting to us at any particular point in time.
I think you bring up a really good point. And the human brain can only take in, they say, 5 to 7 things, or you can only remember 5 to 7 things. That is probably without writing them down. And it's give or take, plus or minus 1 or 2. So I think focusing on 3 is probably good and adequate, and probably realistic for most people in a working environment. So that's good to know. Thank you. When it comes to metrics, what metrics should we use to try to measure the success of implementing these BA best practices?
Well, I think I've had the benefit of speaking to a lot of people recently in BA Insight sessions, and we occasionally talk about the value of business analysis. And I think we've somewhat been in agreement on these discussions in terms of the value of business analysis can only really be measured once the entire initiative or the product or the project have been delivered. It's no good having a perfect set of requirements that never get released, and never get handed over, built upon. So in terms of value, I think that's something that we shouldn't be too narrow-minded and think about like measuring success just in BA terms, but we should think about it in the context of the deliverables or the products or the projects that we're delivering. So maybe the successful delivery of those things would be a metric I would want to look at. I think judging the success is actually somewhat dependent on the feedback of the users and its ability to meet the business case. So arguably, your measurement of successful should be tied to your original business case as well. And perhaps I think making it, if we go back to being a little bit more relevant in real specific terms to the BA capability, maybe because part of the capability, its reason for being there is to help its members and the team develop. Maybe a real KPI or a measurement that we should be focused on is actually the development of its members. So how many people, not necessarily pass qualifications, but that might be something that the organisation is interested in. But I guess I'd be more interested in knowing those people that have maybe transitioned into a BA role where they weren't before, or those that have become a lead BA, or those that have successfully mentored other BAs. So they're the sort of things that I feel like we probably should be talking about when it's measures for success of a BA practice.
No, I think that's
probably. There's one other thing that just occurred to me as well, going back to what I said before, is just making sure that you're not just working in isolation and that you're a BA practice that works in conjunction with the other practices that are delivering.
Yes. So I think that's crucial. And I was going to say, some of these metrics are tangible and some of them are intangible. And it's good to recognize that as well. And you've pointed those out. I want to see, how do we best align the BA practices with the overall strategic goals of an organization? Any points on that?
Yes, I think there's a few component parts which are part of business analysis, which probably lend themselves quite nicely to this. So strategic analysis would be one area. I think as well, business architecture is something that is quite often very tightly coupled with business analysis and process, which is a good part of it. So I think utilising those practices, those professions, those mentalities, I think is always beneficial. So I think taking that high level view and thinking, about the business architecture and what it is that we're trying to achieve as an organisation is a really good first step. I think then thinking about through the process lens as well is useful, because our processes should be aligned to our value streams and our business architecture and our objectives, hopefully. But then, there might be from different times, different strategies that have been a particular focus for your organisation. So making sure that as a practice, you have awareness of those as soon as they're published, and have a consideration as to whether you might have to switch your focus within the practice to support a change in strategy, or maybe some short-term tactics anyway. But it feels like it probably starts with that awareness of the business architecture, or maybe trying to think about it if it's not there already. Think about the strategy of the organisation and maybe using some of the strategic analysis techniques that we tend to use from time to time as BAs, and that will probably be a good first step or two anyway.
Yeah, no, I think those are really valuable points. And when we talk about strategy, many times this includes leadership. So what role would you say that leadership plays in trying to promote and trying to help support the adoption of these BA practices?
So I think some key areas for the organisation and leadership to consider in this respect is firstly to understand the benefits and the value of business analysis. Because I think without understanding that benefit and that value, leadership are not able to talk to their peers and to other practices about this business analysis in this case. Because we'd expect as well that if we've got leaders that are familiar with development, that if they can be aware of the benefits of business analysis, then they're also talking to the development team. So development can come to us as well and sort of propagate that collaboration and partnerships that apply. I think as well, understanding sort of like the key practices, whether they're key sub-practices of business analysis or those other things that exist that quite natural partners to BA, whether they're business architecture or development or project management or even agile and product management. And I think aside from that, I think there's probably some softer things that leadership can do as well. And I think that's around, being supportive to these practices, being present, and actually, the value of one of your leaders turning up at a session, really is difficult to measure, but I know that it certainly echoes the importance of the practice and the group and the community that you're part of. If actually leadership are willing to attend an event and share their support. And almost certainly if they do that, it'll be a good opportunity for them to meet people perhaps they haven't, but also to hear about the good things that BAs are working on and delivering, which will probably mean it'll be a self-propagating type of activity, as it were.
I like those words you've used: be aware and be present. I also want to add, also be current, because sometimes, like you said, things like continuous improvement, or ideas about agile, which are new, even AI, need to be added to those to that conversation as well. I like this idea of leaders just popping in to a session and recognizing that they are aware of what's going on and they're there to help promote it. I think that's highly valuable. And this ties in to this idea of culture. If a leader's there, if they're aware, if they're present, if they're current, if they're making a visit to these sessions, that's a way to help to foster this culture. But any other steps on how we can take to foster this culture of continuous improvement and best practices in a company?
I think it's really important for everybody at different levels of the organisation, different levels of the practice and the BA community to be present and proactive themselves. So it shouldn't just be whoever's leading the BA practice to be, the person that's going around and telling everybody about the practice and the value of it. I think if everybody involved in that can be proactive in doing it themselves, that's a good way of behaving and demonstrating the right behaviours as well. I think not waiting for someone else to do things, which is somewhat similar, is important. So, for example, if I recognise that someone in the team has done something that's worth sharing with the rest of the organisation or the team, or I feel like I've done something myself that's worth sharing, just share it. Get it out there, get people talking about it, get people thinking about it, and try and encourage them to share their opinions about what you've been working on, or get them to share what they've been working on as well. And it very much is part of that, being proactive. I think something that leaders and those more senior in the capabilities and the practices can do is to also have their eye out and awareness of who's working in their area, who's actually delivering, and perhaps those who might be a little bit more reserved or a little bit more shy and don't naturally put themselves forward to share what the good work they're doing. Because perhaps then what we can do is we can encourage them to share the good work they've been doing, which give them some recognition and hopefully some reward in terms of how their behaviours. But if they need support, actually, to give them a bit more confidence, or how they might present, or how they might facilitate a session, then it means you're there to support them. It means maybe they'll learn a little bit from that interaction as well, which is an additional benefit. So I think there's that. I think and just not being afraid to just start. Just go. Don't wait for someone. And just I guess everybody needs to encourage everybody else. If they've got an idea, don't matter where it is, get it shared.
I like this idea of proactive and share, and I think the word share is vitally important because not everybody wants to share. Like you said, some people are shy, but also some people are just very protective of their environment and they don't want to share. And I like to work with people who like to share, because that's the way I grow, is through exchanging ideas, through communicating ideas amongst one another. And a good example is having a YouTube channel. It's a great way to be able to share ideas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just another point on that, if I may, Marcus.
Sure.
I think as well. I think what's important is if you've got people in the community, you're proactively trying to encourage them to come to you or to share and to ask questions. What's vitally important then is that you respond to those questions.
Yes.
Or you respond to when they're sharing. I think we definitely don't want people to share something and it just goes into a vacuum, or to ask a question and they get no response at all, because otherwise they'll just give up. We want to make sure that when they ask a question, whether it's me or someone else in the capability, we can respond to them, give them a good answer, and maybe that might encourage others to chip in or to come back with other questions as well. So that response is really key.
And because we are communicators, we should be open to being able to respond easily. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were talking about how developers don't communicate. You're trying to communicate, ask a question to a developer, and you're just not getting anything back. So maybe some roles aren't as communicative as others, but certainly BAs, we're supposed to be pretty good communicators, and responding to questions is part of that communication. And I was going to say so we've talked about some really effective ways to communicate these benefits and the importance of a business, BA practices. Is there anything that we've left out for communication on the leadership side? We've talked about how leaders can get engaged as well, and creating this community. Is there anything else we need to add when it comes to effectively communicating the benefits and the importance of BA best practices to all the stakeholders involved?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few things that we could add. I did mention before, about using every opportunity in every channel that's available to you to promote the BA community internally. But I think it's easy to forget the external channels as well. And I think they're quite often, in some cases, actually a more effective way, of reaching the individual. So whilst we'd all like to think that our internal communication mechanism would reach our internal workforce quicker than external measures, that isn't always the case. And sometimes people may be on holiday or at weekend, they're just choosing to look at YouTube or LinkedIn or something else. So just recognizing that there is that external, those external channels that can be used as well. And I think, as long as you're consistent with what you're sharing internally and externally, I think people will be, appreciative that they've got different ways to access the information. And I think when it comes to things like the benefits of analysis and trying to communicate that with leaders and clients and senior members of the organisation, maybe it isn't necessarily a bad thing then to have reinforcing messages that are coming from YouTube or LinkedIn, so that it reinforces the credibility of the message they're getting internally.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. By the way, talking about that, does Capco have any YouTube channels on business analysis?
So we do post from time to time on YouTube as well. So we tend to post on LinkedIn a lot, I would say. So that's definitely something for people to look out for as well. But yeah, we do post on. I'm sure we post on a YouTube channel at Capco.
Great. Okay. So you practice what you preach, which is good.
That's it. That's the way. And I mean, we a lot of time as well, we have other means. So a lot of things we work on will not necessarily result in YouTube videos that go externally.
Right.
But we'll do a lot of videos that end up internally. So something we work on a lot on projects will be like for adoption. Part of adoption is in reinforcing and giving information about something you've introduced or implemented. So that our practices and our internal workings, that will be no different. We'll use different measures to maybe pop a 20-minute video or a 30-second clip to somebody just to give them awareness that it's there. And all of this is just to try and catch all those people that learn a little differently, taking information differently, prefer different channels as well. It's just trying to give as many people different opportunities as you can for them to get awareness and then maybe engage. It's up to them if they engage, of course.
Yeah, I like that word, reinforcement. We've had some good keywords today: proactive, reinforcement. When it comes to reinforcement, that's all part of this continuous improvement, this iterative way of learning, and making sure that it's clear, it's present, and it's continuous. So, well, John.
Well, Marcus, I mean, it's probably useful as well to say that. I mean, like channels like your own. I mean, things like the IBA events, conferences, all of those things are just another level of reinforcement as well. Because of for example, people at Capco, they don't just look at as much as I like them to. They don't all look at BA Insights, and they don't all just look at the internal Capco pages. They'll go elsewhere as well, and our clients will go elsewhere, and other stakeholders will look at other mediums. So I think just using as many as you can, and just recognizing the value of all of them. Especially business analysis, I'm finding the community is a very wide, very global one, very open one. Some excellent channels such as your own, as an example. So I like to think that as much awareness we can provide people, then hopefully they'll come to them and learn a little bit.
Yes, no, awareness is vitally important. How can anyone get in touch with you if they want to? Is it just through LinkedIn or through your YouTube channel?
Yes, they can reach out to me via LinkedIn or just it's questions about business analysis. I'd probably prefer YouTube. So BA Insights, if anybody looks up, then host at least a weekly. There's a weekly post on there of a video that hopefully people will find interesting about a BA topic. Always really pleased to hear from anyone if they've got any comments, whether that's about the topic being discussed or even for ideas that they would like to have subsequent sessions on, or even if they want to be a guest themselves, if they've got something to say from a
Mhm.
BA standpoint. There's no barriers for entry on that side. So it's just if you've got something to say on BA, it's always nice to have a chat for an hour about a topic that we can all relate to, and that hopefully people outside the 3 or 4 of us that have that immediate chat, hopefully they might get some benefit from it.
Splendid. Well, thank you for being on the show, John. It's a pleasure. I know I was on your show a few weeks ago, and now you've been on here. I really do enjoy watching your videos, and I like the fact you don't just interview one-on-one, you interview groups of people, 2, 3, 4 people together, and I think that's really good as well.
Thanks,
Um,
Mark.
the more the merrier. So
I
good
mean,
luck with
interesting.
good luck.
It
Sorry?
started off last year as just like one-to-ones, and I was posting on LinkedIn to just the outcome of the conversation, and it
Yeah.
just occurred to me that whilst hopefully people getting the benefit of reading the LinkedIn posts afterwards,
Yeah.
these sessions are really interesting. So like you probably agree, but when you have sessions like this, we're learning all the time off each other when you're speaking. So if you get lucky enough to have 2 or 3 people in the room at the same time, even if it's a virtual room, that's 2 or 3 more opportunities to learn something that you didn't know before. So that's definitely been the case. We had some brilliant guests on. They've all been very open, so that's always really appreciated. And if anyone else feels like they've got something to say on BA, whether that's from a perspective of being a BA or even a developer, project manager, or otherwise, contact me through YouTube ideally.
And there are still lots and lots of BAs left to go. So you've got a plethora of potential people to interview in the future as well. So just to our audience out there, if you are a BA or a project manager or developer and you want to be on John Wisner's BA Insight show, by all means, reach out to him on LinkedIn or through the YouTube channel, BA Insights. Great. Well, just one last note to everyone out there as well. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And that goes for the Inquisitive Analyst show as well as John Wisner's BA Insights. And so until then, thank you very much. And John, have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.